What if escaping a dying Earth meant surrendering your freedom to a corporation that sees you as nothing but data? Welcome back to Already Overbooked, and today we're diving into Wraith and the Revolution by A.J. Calvin. This is a sci fi space opera that mixes high octane action with deep philosophical questions about identity, autonomy, rebellion. So, should you go through and add this one to your TBR or launch it into the void? Let's go through and find out. So let's jump into the plot summary. The story centers on Kye Verex, who is trapped on a polluted and toxic Earth. He's unable to leave due to a genetic condition and lack of resources. His sister returns with a plan for how he can go through and escape. He must undergo a treatment from Xyler Inc., a powerful corporation which could cure his condition, but at a cost of his autonomy. As Kai navigates his new life under Xyler's control, he becomes entangled in a revolution that challenges the very foundation of the galaxy's power structures. All right, let's go through and jump onto the writing style. AJ Calvin's writing it's fast-paced and it's cinematic, blending action and introspection in equal measures. AJ's prose, they're tight, they're efficient, and they're cinematic in a way that every scene reads like it was built for screen. Action sequences are very explosive without being bloated, and the character's introspection feels raw but never melodramatic. Dialogue carries a weight, and there's a welcome rhythm between those quiet tensions and those high octane chaos. However, exposition occasionally interrupts the flow of the book, especially when they have a lot of the acronyms and the world mechanics. They stack up a lot in the early chapters, but they really start flowing a little bit better once you really start understanding. And I really did appreciate that AJ went through and added a acronyms and the terms at the front of the book that you can go back and reference on. But to me, anytime I need to go through and do that, it kind of pulls me a little bit out of the story. So even with that learning curve, it's still a smooth story to go through and appreciate. So jumping into the themes and tones, the tones of Wrath and the Revolution, it is balances dark cyberpunk with hopeful resistance. There's a pain and loss, but also resilience and found family. One of the strongest aspects of Wraith and the Revolution is how layered its themes are, all woven seamlessly into Kai's journey. At the heart of the novel, it is the tension between control and autonomy. And Kai's struggle is deeply personal. He's not just fighting a broken system, he's wrestling with what it means to have ownership over your body, your future, and all your choices you make. That sense of systematic oppression runs through the entire story. There's also a powerful undercurrent of resistance. This book doesn't shy away from trauma, but it focuses on what comes after. Kai's arc is about rebuilding, not just physically, but emotionally and morally. It's not about returning to what was, but surviving and reshaping the world after. The backdrop of the environment decay adds an extra layer of urgency. Earth is no longer livable for most, and the toxic setting isn't just a sci fi dressing, it's a direct result of long term neglect and exploitation. The planet itself becomes a symbol of everything the characters are fighting to escape or change. So let's jump into the pros and cons. And of course, we're going to go through and start with the pros. There is a gripping narrative pace with rich emotional depth. The complex protagonist of Kai has a very compelling story arc. I was a real fan of his arc throughout this whole story. The world building was a lot of fun once you understood and had your feet underneath you within this story. There's a balanced structure between action and thought provoking moments. Now, some of the cons, as I mentioned already, there is a steep learning curve with the terminology and acronyms within the story. Again, after you got to the third way through the book and you really started understanding the how the world was set up and the terminology, it became a lot more easy and flow a lot better throughout the story. The initial world building was dense, and again, with the terminology and acronyms added on top of it, the real first third was kind of rough to get through. Some of the secondary characters were a little aggravating for me. Now, if that was done on purpose by AJ, I'm not sure. If so, amazing job. You killed it on making some of these secondary characters very aggravating. There was a couple subplot resolutions that felt a little rushed near the end, which I wish you could have expanded that part a little bit and maybe decrease some of the initial world building at the beginning. So finding that common ground between those two would have been amazing. So my final thoughts, Wraith and the Revolution isn't just another space rebellion. It's a deep dive into the cost of change, the fragility of memory, and what it means to take back power. I ended up going through and giving this book a 7 out of 10. I really did enjoy it for its thought provoking sci fi adventure that asked those hard hitting questions about autonomy, identity, and resistance. So if you're into character driven sci-fi with sharp edges, this one is absolutely belongs on your radar. So let me know down in the comments your favorite sci-fi rebellion story. I always love going through and adding in amazing stories that you go through and recommend. And don't forget to like, subscribe, you know what to do. Till I see you in the next one.